Welcome. These will be my thoughts on Young Jedi Adventures, Season 2, Episode 22, A Mission to Remember / The Bounty Hunter and the Thief. And the episode is for, I want to say, ages 6 and up, so will this video be, other than probably the video recommendation I'm going to make. And there will be spoilers for the episode and the show leading up to this point, possibly everything Star Wars leading up to it as well. And yeah, another good to great episode. So that's a lot of so's. That I do not forget, I am going to start with the recommendation. And since it is Women's History Month, I'm trying to make sure to do videos, recommend videos by female YouTubers, as usual, leftists. And I think this time it is going to be the, so as mentioned, not exactly for 6-year-olds, but the Legia Miller video, The Death of America's Soft Power, is well worth your attention. And yeah, I'm going to start by talking about the female characters in the episode and then go scene by scene. So I thought it worked well that in the first of the two stories, one of the characters to make mistakes is indeed Liz. This is a progressive channel. We support women's rights and women's wrongs. Minority characters in general are more interesting when they are allowed to make mistakes, be flawed, messy. And I think that might be about what I have to say about the first of the stories as far as... right, I think, was she maybe the one who realized that they need to, why they struggle to engage in teamwork. So that's also great. So it's very important for me to underline, I'm not engaging in any kind of biological essentialism here. I'm talking about socialization. And I acknowledge not everybody, adheres to it, and that's fine too. But right now, as far as socialization goes, young women are, encouraged to be communicators to a greater extent than a lot of young men. So it makes sense that she would be the one to realize it and tell the others so they can do better. Yeah, I think that does bring us to the second of the, second half here. And it's great, this thing of Liz hearing, oh, there's a creature, yeah, sign me up. And good to see Ace again. And I thought it worked well, the conflict between, in fairly little time, there's a lot of little exchanges where it's clear they don't really like each other. And even at the end, they're not exactly friends. They're shaking each other's hand, and yeah, they're more okay with each other than before. And that might actually more or less cover it. I appreciated that, there are definitely times where Anson is a little bit, he's acting like, oh, the Gungan must be cornered now. And Ace points out that's not the case, and, base that on knowledge rather than just a hunch. And yeah, the fact that they do, by the end, all, manage to work together, I guess, in both stories, really, is a nice segue into the scene by scene. So I appreciated how small child, having gotten away from the parent or legal guardian coded MB4, who I have to assume has a sibling named M after. is. And yeah, it is absolutely, like, I appreciate, small children, like, if a 6-year-old watches this episode, there's not necessarily that much they can do. I mean, I don't know, I guess today they probably have a smartphone, right? So they can maybe help the kid contact their parents or something. But yeah, it is, you know, in that situation, that the small child would be very, very, you know, it's a very bad situation for them to be in. So they should get help. And yeah, I kind of like the thing of like, where was I going? Oh, you were going that way. Oh, right, there's a thief, and yeah, I've said it before, I think some of these shows and such do a better job with the speeder bikes than I personally think was done in Return of the Jedi. It never made that much sense to me. I get that, if the effects were better, I would be able to appreciate the coolness of, oh, it's going so fast and they're in this dangerous situation. But it just feels like, why are they even doing it in that kind of, like, yeah, I have issues with that. It's easily my least favorite of the original trilogy, but I did an entire video on it, so I'm not going to belabor it here. Just saying, I think this did it better, and this helps prove that you can do something compelling with speeder bikes. And I think that does... Let's see, yeah, the way that their emotions override their teamwork and logic. They usually try to reason things out, but here they're just reacting. And I guess that does... Yeah, I think I appreciate that apparently, so Emmett, I think was his name. I guess he's going to end every episode he's in falling into water, which, like, I mean, it's effective shorthand for, I mean, obviously he's not going to immediately get out of there, so he's going to have to go regroup before he can cause trouble for the younglings again. And even a child understands, it's embarrassing to end up in water fully clothed like that, if that wasn't what you were going for. And yeah, I thought I like the little detail that the gang can't really work together. That's part of what goes wrong for them. And the younglings succeed when they do work together. And I guess that does... I will say, the part where they were all, one after another run at, like, even Kai, even after he sees the other two, like, I guess third time's the charm, that really reminded me of Sideshow Bob stepping on rakes over and over. And I suppose that pretty much covers that entire story. Yeah, it was generally sweet at the end that they do get to see the mines, and the guy being really grateful. And I think that, yeah, and we have another antagonist character on the show, motivated by greed. And I appreciate Emmett was motivated by greed the last time we saw him as well, but yeah, it's really important to teach children not to be greedy, because, like, at the end of the day, like, every human being can at some point in their lives find ourselves greedy, and the earlier in your life you learn that that's a bad thing, the better you'll be at resisting it when you face it. I guess that does cover the entire first story. So yeah, Bounty Hunter and the Thief, right, and great to... I'm not super familiar with Tig Notaro, but so far, I like them. And yeah, I'm so glad Anson is a good guy now, because him finding creatures for good instead of as a bounty hunter, that's really great. And yeah, the thing with chasing the cat was yeah, Anson read that book on screenplays and he's like, oh, I gotta save the cat. And I think that might be the entire... So that brings them to Ace. And I do like that, yeah, Anson is just, a little bit rude. And then Ace is like, "Who are you?" Uh, don't remember inviting you, buddy. And I really love that Ace is not even remotely intimidated by his massive, like he's like 3 times her size, roughly, and she just calls him big guy. She's not even remotely, scared of him. But yeah, we see the squark. What's a squark? And at first, it is not moving fast. And then, Liz realizes about the heat and provides light, heat, and energy for a little thing, which shows it's happy by emitting that little noise. So we now have a squeaking squark on our hands, or rather in the tank. A squark in the tank is worth 10 that you have to rush to catch. And that's when we meet the Gungan. And so this is a mixed situation. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and note that it is a good thing that they are, here going against the. I think that is also called biological essentialism. It's just, yeah. Earlier when I mentioned in the video, I was talking about gender. Here it is about, race, or in case of Star Wars, species. And yeah, before, like in the movies, when we met Gungans, they were, these, like, Jar Jar was clumsy, but the others were basically like samurai coded, that, like, yeah. And here we're seeing one that is neither of those things. It is really important to teach children, because otherwise they will really struggle to understand it as adults. Just because someone looks different from you does not mean that they are, like, lesser or different in every way. Like, yeah, there might be some differences, but that's what makes life beautiful. We are all different. We are all individuals. Props if you repeated that back at me. And yeah, let's see. Bonus points if you post in the comments. I'm not. Anyway, let's see. So yeah. Because Star Wars had, for a while, a problem where certain species were just inherently evil and others were just inherently good, and that's not really how it works in real life. And I appreciate that, yeah, like, first movie came out in, like, 1977, back then, like, even just having so many different, yeah, so many that were coded as non-white. Weren't necessarily many visibly non-white, actors, but yeah, that already was a big step. There was, like, if you watch, there's a bunch of movies from back then that were just so painfully white. So that's a good thing. The bad thing is that they are specifically doing it with Gungan, who, I talked about at length in my video on the Phantom Menace, what a racist stereotype this is, and how this, yeah. So I don't love seeing more of Gungans, so that's bad. But they really toned down, to a pretty major extent, the stuff that made him racist. So among other things, the clumsiness. We are encouraged to laugh at Jar Jar even when he is not trying himself to be funny. We're not supposed to necessarily take the character seriously, which is messed up for a character that is clearly coded as non-white. I let's see. I want to. Right now, I forget which. Is it maybe Jamaican? It's one of the diaspora. And I'm afraid my wrists are too sore to look it up right now. But the yeah, so that's good. An argument could be made that maybe you should just not try to fix the Gungan. Maybe just leave that species behind, especially in something specifically for children, because once again, it is so crucial to teach them to be anti-racist instead of racist. So that's bad. Yeah, like I said, mixed bag. Anyway, yeah. The Gungan manages. I'm afraid I simply do not recall its name. Just that it is a Gungan. So that's some. Puba maybe, which yeah sounds a little. Yeah. Okay. I'll refer to it as that. Yeah. The yeah, manages to sneak away with the, because he gonks the gonk, leaving it gonking until it gets ungonked by the younglings. And yeah, Anson, despite Ace making fun of him, he does manage to find the trail and follow it. And yeah, they realize about Puba, and the yeah, I thought it worked well. This thing of so the yeah, and we again have the thing about how they borrow, they don't steal the speeder bikes. And I mean, I will say, if I, as a child, if a Jedi walked up to me, even if that Jedi was also a child, and said, can I borrow your bike? Official Jedi business. I'd like to think that I wouldn't say only if I get to see the lightsaber in action. But yeah, the they catch up, and yeah, the thing about Anson is not happy about Ace, the way she's controlling the thing, and she's like, you wanna drive, which and it was also that, see, that's a good way to do a visual, it's like a sight gag, because we laugh at how it looks silly that he's on this tiny little thing, it's made for a child, but we don't take his character, less seriously necessarily. We still appreciate all the things he's good at, which, I appreciate that some would argue there's stuff that Jar Jar's good at. I have, encountered a number of people who do not see any of those things, who just laugh at him, engaging in unintentional slapstick on his part. Anyway, so they manage to, let's see, first they catch up, and then there's the, right, is that maybe when we have the, let's see. Yeah, they talk about how they definitely can't, make the jump, and then well, what about the jet? And yeah, genuinely quite clever and great to see teamwork engaged in and rewarded. And they end up catching up to Puba, but the at first it looked like they were gonna go more Looney Tunes than I'm used to for this show, when she grabs the back of the thing, but ultimately it didn't quite. That wasn't quite what happened. And then, as yeah, the lid comes open, and suddenly they are dealing with a squirrely squark. And yeah, they all run to try to catch up to it, and it ends up, running on water somewhere. Dash, is that his name? Nods in approval. And yeah, they can't quite, there's no way they're going to be able to outswim a Gungan, but with flying they can accomplish it, and they do manage to get it and put it back in the little aquarium. And let's see, I think that might pretty much cover the episode. I'm just gonna mentally fast forward through it. And yeah, appreciate the thing about temperature, because there are indeed a number of animals, some kept as pets, that need a very different temperature than is comfortable for us human beings. And that's something, obviously, if a child is going to have a pet, they need to understand and respect. And this can maybe help teach that. Yeah, I feel like that does just about cover. I like that even Anson can't help but talk cutesy to the squark. And I think that might, yeah, yeah, Pooba did indeed leap over the, yeah. And then, Anson runs up and goes, "He did a Peter Pan right here, right off this dam."